What's up, man?
What's up, bud? All
Don't
right,
mind me. I'm gonna make a drink real quick.
go for it.
What are you drinking on?
I got some stuff from the man cave up there at CJ's. I got Associate Brewing Company, the architect. And then I already drank an Elysium, the one with the cat and the beaming eyes. And some Game of Thrones drink.
You know, I still haven't watched that.
You should.
Yeah, I know. Says you and like everybody else I talk to.
Yeah, I know how that goes.
All right. Well, I got me some pre-mixed strawberry margarita. Cheers.
Hold on one second.
All right, I'll wait.
Cheers.
Salud. Good stuff. I've already had quite a few.
Good.
I was a little tipsy when I was watching this movie. So what's up, dude? Horrorfest
man?
episode 2.
I'd say
part
call
2?
it, I guess, volume 1 of
Volume 1, part 2? Horrorfest volume 1,
yeah,
part
volume
2?
1, episode 2.
I'm down with that.
Horrorfest.
Yeah.
So,
Dude,
here we go.
we totally did this out of order.
You're right, we did. That was my fault.
No, not at all. Not at all. Because it wasn't until I started digging in on this movie where I've like found some notes, and I got a couple big shout outs because in my investigative work, there was some really good resources. So I want to make sure I pay credit where credit is due. But I mean, you know, we're just trying to do our own thing. So, you know, it is what it is. But there was a better order where we could have done some of this stuff. So I'll talk about that in a second, but I'm still happy with what we're doing. I have a couple corrections since last episode, if I can get those out.
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so last episode, well, I'll give the kids at home a recap. What we're doing is a little 3-part mini series, kind of trying to bridge a little bit of or create a little bit of a bridge here. We were looking for some movies to watch. I came across this movie called The Brain. It had what was the dude's name? David Gale, right? The
David
doctor.
Gale. Yeah, David Gale.
Yeah, David Gale, who's also in Reanimator, which was directed by Stuart Gordon. And then I also come across this movie called Castle Freak, which was directed by Stuart Gordon, but also included Jeffrey Combs, who plays Dr. Herbert West from Reanimator, Barbara Crampton, who's also from Reanimator. So I was like, cool, what a good little like tie-in. And so let's, you know, just kind of mesh that together. And then so last episode we watched The Brain, and I had mentioned in The Brain or that episode that there was some stuff that I had read online where in the town in which The Brain takes place, it's supposed to be California, but I was saying in the episode, there's no reference to the fact that this is taking place in California. I had that absolutely wrong. I did also mention in the episode that there was a lot of, when I was doing some investigative work, there was a lot of call outs to this movie called Bloody Birthday. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, Bloody Birthday, which was also directed by Ed Hunt, who directed The Brain. And that one was a reoccurring kind of title in all the stuff that I was reading. And so since last episode, I took it upon myself to watch Bloody Birthday. I actually watched it a couple times. That movie's fucking great. I think we are gonna need to either do like a whole like Ed Hunt kind of mini series, or at least watch that movie, because that movie is pretty fucking good. That movie takes place in the same town that The Brain takes place, but it's made out to be California. So I think I just got my wires crossed when I was doing my investigative work, in that the California reference is more towards Bloody Birthday than it is to The Brain. So nonetheless, that guy's pushing out some really good movies, or at least he was. I don't know if he's dead or not, but he's probably not still making movies. But Bloody Birthday was really good. So that's one of them I'm going to have to check out. So Castle Freak did a little investigative work on the movie before dove into it. It ruined some things for me. I already knew what was coming up, but nonetheless, I still enjoyed the movie. Didn't realize, again, maybe this is just my lack of horror, but this is kind of the third installment of an unofficial like 3-part arc for Jeffrey Combs, Barbara Crampton, and Stuart Gordon, and H.P. Lovecraft. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that Stuart Gordon was a huge fan of H.P. Lovecraft, and Reanimator and From Beyond are the first 2 movies in which both Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton are in, which both of them are based on H.P. Lovecraft stories. And then Castle Freak is the third one, coming in 95. I think Reanimator was 85, From Beyond was 86, and then Castle Freak was 95. So it was a little bit of time between those first 2 to this last one. And then Castle Freak is very loosely based on a short story called The Outsider by H.P. Lovecraft. Some callbacks to it, but not directly, like not a direct correlation to any specifically to an H.P. Lovecraft story. So doing my investigative work, I came across something that I've really never came across before. It was considered a video essay. You familiar with the concept?
I can assume. I really no. I'm not very familiar.
I think it was a film student. This dude named Zane. He's got a YouTube channel called In Praise of Shadows, and he did a video essay entitled, oh shit, I didn't even write the name. I didn't even write the name of the video, but I think it's something called Castle Freak and H.P. Lovecraft. And the first 20 minutes, maybe less, is about Castle Freak and its correlation to H.P. Lovecraft's short story, The Outsider, of which the story is, and I'm going to totally just kind of fucking nutshell it here and fuck it up. But it's the story of this guy who just is locked in a castle for his entire life. He's never had any interaction with anybody else outside of the castle. And finally, one day he breaks loose and he goes out and he explores the world. And then he ends up finding himself back at his castle, but it's a little different from what he remembers. I think that's a homage to like time passing, so much time that he spent in the outside world, and then he comes back into the castle, I believe. Again, I'm fucking this up. And he views himself in a mirror and he sees how ugly he is, and then ends up breaking the mirror, and I don't know how it ends, but again, that's the short story. So Castle Freak is kind of loosely based on that story.
I mean, all the elements are in there, just kind of spread out in different forms.
Yeah, 100%. So huge shout out and thank you to Zane and his YouTube channel, in praise of shadows. He's actually got some really kick-ass stuff on there, so I'm gonna put a link to his YouTube channel in the description for this episode. I highly recommend, Matt, that you go check it out, because I think you'd get a kick out of some of the shit that he's got on there. He just breaks down a lot of like horror stuff, kind of oddball stuff, in great detail. Some of the videos are about 20 minutes long. Some of the other ones are, in excess of like 2 hours. But I think you'd get a kick out of some of his shit.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your facts.
All right, Matt, give us a summary of Castle Freak.
So essentially, this family moves into this castle, and there's a freak living inside, and he starts ruining their lives.
As freaks do.
As freaks do. I guess more detail, to come, but yeah, it's trying to break it down. You got a family. They got their own problems. They got a dwindling past, a dwindling marriage, a blind daughter, and a dead son, and so their lives aren't even in shape as we can see, and they want to. Well, after they inherit this, the castle, they want to sell everything, just earn back from it or whatever, and just so happens that there's a freak living in the basement, and there you have Castle Freak.
Okay. A little bit more to it, but yeah, it's a good summary. Yeah.
It's trying to break down a little bit, to its simplest base form, but there's a lot more to it than that.
Dude, actually, that is a very true statement, and I say that because in my investigative work that I did, I found some really good information about this movie in particular, not the movie in particular, but more like the way that this movie came to be. So
I do know one tidbit. Did you hear about where the castle's from?
Yes, I do. Yeah. So this movie is produced by a production company called Full Moon Pictures. Is that what you were talking about?
Hold that. Full Moon Pictures, a very beloved friend of ours.
Yes.
Okay. Master.
Dude, I'm so stoked to talk about this. Like this was more, I don't know, this was like this made it to the top of my list. So so there's a gentleman by the name of Charles Band, who is producing movies in Rome under a production company called Enterprise Productions, I want to say. Let me check my notes. I can't find it because I'm drunk. But Enterprise something, and the last, hold on, I'm gonna find it here. Give me 1 second. Sorry, kids. Okay, got it. Empire Pictures. That's what it's called, not Enterprise. Empire Pictures. So he's running this production company out of Rome called Empire Pictures, and the way that he operates, this guy Charles Band. Do you know any of this, Matt?
Let's hear it.
Okay, cool. So the way that this guy operates, so he comes up with this idea for a movie at the tail end of this production company called Empire Pictures. And what he does is he creates the poster art for the movie and the name of the movie, and then he gives it to a filmmaker and says, here, go make this movie. And the filmmaker's like, okay, but what's the story to this movie? And Charles Band is like, I don't know. That's your job. I just came up with the fucking picture and the title. You're going to go and fucking shoot the thing. Just make sure that the movie matches the poster art and the title. That movie was called Dolls. Familiar?
I haven't seen it in
Come
ages.
on, man. Dolls is a
No,
fucking
I know
classic.
I know
Are you serious right now?
it's been so long, dude. I don't even remember the last time I watched that. I know about it. I'm very familiar with it. Don't think that I'm not.
Motherfucker. Tell me how you have never seen Dolls before.
No, I've seen Dolls. I haven't seen it in a very long time.
Dude, I used to watch the shit out of that movie. It used to come on like Channel 5 or Channel 9, like on a Saturday afternoon, like 4 or 5 o'clock. And it would just be on. And dude, every time it would come on, me and Tony would watch that shit. I fucking love that movie, dude. I had no idea it was directed by Stuart Gordon, man. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's fun to go back and see, like, you know, like what movies were made by some of our favorites and stuff growing up.
Yeah, 100%. So, what's the name of this fucking production company? I already fucking forgot. Empire Pictures. He ends up ditching that shit in Rome, comes to the United States. He ends up founding this other production company called Full Moon Pictures. Now, he carries that same kind of concept over with Full Moon Pictures, where he's like, hey, I'm going to develop artwork in the name of a movie to go with that artwork. And you, as the filmmaker, are responsible for going out and making that movie. And as weird as that sounds, I think it's fucking awesome because it gives the creator full fucking control of how you want to make this movie. The assignment is, hey, here's a movie title. Here's the artwork that goes with the poster or the poster that I want for it. Go make this movie. Cool. I'm going to go out and shoot whatever the fuck I want to shoot. And the very first title to be released by Full Moon Pictures is what?
Puppet Master.
Yeah, it's fucking Puppet Master, dude. And so it comes out with great success, and they're like, fuck, this is a thing. Let's just continue to do this shit. So they continued to do it. And Castle Freak is one of those movies that comes out under the Full Moon Pictures title. Now, here's the thing. The Full Moon movies, for the most part, don't have like theatrical releases. Full Moon Pictures ends up developing a deal with Paramount Pictures that says, hey, us as Full Moon, we're going to produce all these movies. We're going to make all these movies and we're going to give them to you. And Paramount says, great. When you give them to us, we're just going to straight to VHS. And they're like, all right, cool. So in the few years of that business agreement, there is some money made that's, you know, good for Paramount, good for Full Moon Pictures. People are making okay money. It's not, you know, like Hollywood gangbuster movies that you're making today, but it's enough to keep the Full Moon Pictures up and running, and people are continuing to do this thing. So you get a few years of like some really fucking kick-ass low budget B-rated movies. As a matter of fact, in that video essay, Zane goes on to say, as long as the movie matched the cover art and the title and you came in under budget, your shit was getting pushed out. So it was like, cool, I know my parameters. Let me go and fucking just do whatever the fuck I want to do. And there's some really kick-ass movies that came out of there. So I think it would be advantageous for us to go back at a certain point and watch a lot of these Full Moon Pictures movies, because there just seems to be a lot of gems in that shit.
Oh, there is absolutely. And going back to what you were talking about, the creative freedom and all that stuff, you know, you're right. It actually it empowers a lot of people striving to be filmmakers and stuff, to be able to to have that creative freedom, to be able to take an idea that they probably didn't, couldn't come up with on their own at the time. Maybe they had an ambition, but they didn't have the ideal, like the idea of, and somebody fed it to them, and then they were like, like, here's the keys to the kingdom, no pun intended, castle being part of the title. But in doing that, you're gonna bring a lot of aspiring artists. I wanted to actually bring it up too. It's funny that we're even bringing this up. I totally forgot Full Moon was the company behind Castle Freak. I actually just recently revisited Puppet Master, and just for all you viewers out there who have Shudder, I'm going to tell you right now, they just released like the entire franchise on Shudder. So I went back, and then that was one of the movies that like I had to sneak up and watch in the middle of the night. It was Puppet Master 2. But going back to even Puppet Master 1, like, watching it, like it showed a lot. Like the film quality may not be the best, the actors may not be the best, but dude, the story, everything else was way more captivating. And I'm glad they pursued it that way. I'm glad. I think in a way it was to to push artists to come up with these like straight to video kind of films and stuff. So I
and they didn't just stick with horror. They actually produce a lot of like sci-fi. It was horror, sci-fi, and fantasy movies that they were pushing out. So you get like a really good kind of mix of a little bit of everything coming from Full Moon.
That's really cool to hear. I did hear something about if I'm not mistaken though, the guy, I'm not sure if he's the owner of Full Moon Pictures or something. He I want to say he owns the castle.
Yeah, so Charles Band is the guy who we're talking about, came from Rome to the United States, started Full Moon Pictures, and already had some history of working with Stuart Gordon, who directed Castle Freak. But he owned the castle in which Castle Freak is shot, and allegedly,
it's not the only movie it's appeared in. I think it's
that's correct. Yeah, allegedly there's a lot of other Full Moon Pictures movies in which the castle is either featured, or a lot of those movies take place in that castle. So he owns that castle. Charles Band owns that castle. Funny story with this is that he lets them use this castle for the movie. So I think they had started talking about the idea of this movie in February of maybe 95. I know that's when the movie came out. Drunk.
Was it 95 or 93?
Well, it's so funny that you say that, because it's definitely not 93. But there's another podcast called The Flop. Are you familiar with this one by chance?
No.
Okay. So The Flop is a podcast in which these gentlemen watch movies that are considered to be bad movies, flops. And they just, they watch the movie and then they talk about it for 2 hours. Kind of similar to what we're doing here, except
I was going to say, it sounds very...
They don't restrict themselves to just horror. They watch all genre of movies, but the ones that they're watching in all genres are the ones that are like the worst, or the flops. They did an episode like 282 or something like that. I did some digging and I found it. They did an episode on Castle Freak, and they had a special guest for that show. I'll give you 2 guesses on who that special guest was.
Wait. So they had a meeting about Castle Freak.
And so these guys on this podcast called The Flop, They watch
and
Castle
they had a
Freak,
guest on their podcast.
and they go to record their episode on Castle Freak, and they had a special guest sit in on that episode who reviewed the same movie on his show as well. There's a hint for you. 2 guesses.
Joe Bob Briggs?
Yeah. Good job. They did an episode on Castle. Yeah. Yeah, this was I want to say 2019, a few years back.
He did. You can tell he's got quite the longevity as far as in any movies go in history. He's actually, dude. He's been in a part of a lot of movies that we would never have thought he was in the backstage area for.
Oh, I would imagine. I mean, I know you are more versed in his.
He's got his strings tied to almost everything. And I watched an episode of his show recently. He was covering Reanimator.
Really? Because I was just perusing Shudder today, and I noticed that his show is back on Shudder, The Last Drive-In. Mm-hmm. And he has 2 episodes posted. One of them was Black Roses, so I started watching that. But episode 2,
you watched the Valentine's Day special.
Yeah. And episode 2 is Frankenhooker, which we talked about last episode. Yes, so I was like, we gotta visit that shit. But anyways, so Joe Bob Briggs is on this episode of The Flop, and they're talking about the release date of the movie. And there's some ambiguity in regards to when it comes out, 95, 97. Nobody says 93, but everywhere I look says 95. So I think this movie was released in 95.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's funny because Full Moon is established in about 86, 87. And then this movie, Castle Freak, comes out in 95. And remember, they have this agreement with Paramount that says, hey, we're going to make all these movies and then we'll just give them to you. And then you guys do whatever you want. So they were literally going straight to VHS and straight to Laserdisc. Well, Castle Freak is the movie that breaks the agreement between Full Moon Pictures and Paramount. It is listed as the most violent and most horrific movie that Full Moon puts out. And Paramount was like, yeah, fuck that. We don't want anything to do with this shit anymore. Like, your movies barely make any money. And I know we had this agreement, but this movie's a little fucked up. So we're just not we're not gonna fuck with you anymore. And they cut their ties. That was it.
That's the Full Moon for sticking it in there.
Yeah, I thought that show was funny.
They're the ones that are like, hey, we're not gonna shut up. We're gonna be louder.
Yeah. But good side story, right? So Charles Band is the guy who owns and operates Full Moon, and he gives Stuart Gordon and the crew full access to the castle, right? So I think they started talking about the conception of this movie in February, and then they started shooting in June. And then on July 8th, Band shows up to the castle where everybody is fucking shooting, and he's like, hey, yeah, you guys need to be done and out by tomorrow because I'm going to be using my castle for a family reunion. So the whole cast is like, yeah, this movie's not done. So what? And he's like, I don't give a shit. Like, you guys got to be out by tomorrow. Sorry. So the cast and crew spent a fucking grip of overtime, just shooting all their last scenes, getting everything in the can. There's some controversy about the cast not being paid for overtime after putting in all that work to get all those scenes shot. The dude who plays Giorgio, who's the freak, actor by the name of Jonathan Fuller, claims that nobody got paid for any of that overtime, and he was literally in the middle of the night in full fucking makeup, and prosthetics, like just packing his bag. Like they didn't even give him the opportunity to like stay in a hotel or like at least a couple days to kind of wrap shit up. Band was just like, nope, you got to be out by tomorrow, so get the fuck out.
It's
So
real life people.
Yeah, 100%.
Real life when it comes to filmmaking, man.
Yeah,
no breaks.
But that's it. Yeah. So yeah, dude owns the castle. Okay, so as you mentioned, Castle Freak, Jeffrey Combs, lead actor, Barbara Crampton, again.
Beloved.
Yeah,
both of them.
Oh, 100%. So Jeffrey Combs plays this guy who inherits a castle from an aunt that he didn't even know that he had. And the aunt, the woman who, the Duchess of the castle, we come to find out had a child with an American soldier that turned out to just be a freak. And so she fakes the death of this child after the American soldier husband left her, probably because they had a freak child. And so she just becomes a recluse, stays in the house or in the castle, dismisses all the staff. No one's allowed to come visit. It's implied that they have a funeral for the kid. But as we know, it's the freak that lives in the cellar of the castle. She ends up dying in the first scene, heart attack or something. I don't know. Her face looked
too
like
much
real
whipping for the whipping boy.
Yeah, so me and Perla are watching this movie, and like, so the Duchess comes down to feed the freak, but then like whips the shit out of him. We're like, he didn't even do anything to deserve the whipping. Like, is it just part of his meal process, or like he's got to get whipped? It didn't make any sense to us. Like, why the fuck are you punishing him because he's gross? Like, that seems a little fucked up. But whatever. She beats the shit out of him with a whip, feeds him some food, and then goes back upstairs, and then she dies of a heart attack. So the freak is left in the castle to kind of like, and he's chained up as well. So it's not like he can roam the castle. And so
he's a prisoner.
Yeah.
In
And
the
immediately
dungeon of his own home, he's just a prisoner.
Yeah. You know what? It gave me a lot of Goonie vibes.
Oh, dude, by far. Like, it had some of the, yeah.
R.I.P. Sloth. Well, she dies. Jeffrey Combs and his wife and their daughter are being driven in to the castle in Rome. They find out that he is the long lost heir. His dad is like the rightful owner of the castle, the whole nine. I don't know, whatever. So they're settling in, but their intent is to sell the castle, right? He's like, I just want to fucking sell it and move on. And while they're staying there, they start to hear these rumblings, and he's got to make inventory of the house or whatever. So, they're kind of moving around all the rooms and checking out some pictures, and they're hearing the noises. And the daughter, who's blind, is the one who really kind of ends up finding the freak, not really realizing what she's found because she's blind and she can't see what's happening. She just kind of cat. Yeah, there was a cat. Forgot about that.
Well, it's the thing. The very same cat. I don't know if it was the same one. I mean, supposedly it's 40 years since the Duchess was found dead, I guess.
No, it couldn't have been that long.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's
because the freak would have starved to death. Because that was the first question that Perla asked was
40 years of the conception. So
the freak is 40 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, I must have missed that.
Yeah, it gets brought up. Okay, that's where I came with the number 40, because it had something to do. It had something to do with something that we'll probably get into as we explain the movie more. But yeah, there's that cat that she was feeding at the very beginning. First thing that you see opening up was the milk, I just thought it was funny because that scene that you're talking about, she follows the cat down, right? She's going down the stairs. She's like, "Where are you leading me?" Like, it's like,
Yeah.
bitch, why are you following them? And you're blind.
It's a
You're going
fucking cat.
downstairs into a dungeon. Do you not hear that trickling, leaky faucet down at the end of the hall, just echoing? Like, obviously, you're in a red zone, whatever. But she goes in, she follows this cat that leads her to a chamber that our beloved castle freak is in, the most beautiful child in the world, of course. I just thought it was funny because when they had left the chamber and she was explaining there was somebody else there or whatever, it was then, she was brought back upstairs, but the cat's still there, and motherfucker grabs the cat from beneath the door and just pulls it right in. A great scene. I love cats, don't get me wrong, please don't hold that against me. I love cats.
I am gonna hold that against you. Fuck cats. But all right.
You cross certain bounds when you start killing animals. People's all right, but come on, no.
Well, okay, but you got to understand though, the Duchess, his mother, died, so he's down there chained up with no food and no water.
And so, I do get that. I'm not dismissing that point altogether. In fact, I was going to go there. The cat was free food at any point. He waited this long to just grab the cat. I'm sure that cat's been in and out of that chamber for the longest time and shit.
It's a big ass castle.
Until there's people occupying the castle before he goes, oh, let me just eat this cat now.
It's a big ass castle. Maybe the cat needed to make the rounds between the whole castle before he got back to that room.
True. And if anything, that cat was probably an antagonist anyway. He led her into a potential trap. So maybe that cat deserved it.
Maybe. I did find it weird though that like as the cat was trying to leave, he did pull it back from like the cat hole in the door. I never know what you call that shit for like cats and dogs to just kind of come in through the door at the bottom.
Oh, that was his feeding hole. Remember
the feeding hole? Yes.
I don't even know if that's what it's called. That's what the Duchess. Okay, his mother would slip food underneath the door, and there was a little cutout for the food. Just like being a prisoner.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's the opening he's talking about. It's not a cat door or anything. It's an actual feeding hole. I don't know if that's the word for it, but whatever.
We're gonna go with that feeding hole.
Why not?
Here's what I found funny about that was that you see him pull the cat back, right? And then the next thing you see is he throws the carcass of the cat like across the room. But like it's a skinned cat, right? So it's just all red and bloody and just that's it. And I thought to myself, I even told Perla, like, why would he skin the cat and then throw the body that has all the meat on it, but then just keep like the fur and eat that? Like, that was fucking weird to me, And I it's probably just one of those things where like they wanted to gross you out with the carcass of a cat, but like that's where all the meat's at. Like that's what you keep. You throw the fur and you keep the meat and you eat that.
Maybe that's why he's the freak.
Ah, very true.
That would be my assumption. I'm not sure that's what they were thinking when they were making it. But
yeah, they were probably just like, what's the like most gross?
Let's disturb the audience as much as possible.
Yeah, 100%.
Good job, guys.
So the blind girl knows that there's someone else in the castle. Now it's probably worth noting, or at least describing how the blind girl became blind, because she didn't start off as blind. Jeffrey Combs, who is the father in the movie, has a dark past, I guess, if you will, where he was a former alcoholic. And he was driving both the daughter and the son, who's not in the movie other than just a flashback, home in a rainstorm drunk. gets in a car accident, hits a tree, turns over. I couldn't help but notice that the station wagon that we're driving looked almost similar to the station wagon that I drove in high school. Do you remember that shit?
Yes.
I
Okay.
take that as a yes.
No, yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys, listen. I had to, I have to bring this up. You brought up the station wagon. Here it is, man. The primer station wagon, right?
No, it was gray, not primer.
No, but remember you had a buddy. You're like, it looks more like primer. Like,
I didn't have a buddy. So when I was living in the apartments, I was in the laundry room one day, and some kid was like, "Hey, is that your station wagon?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Dude, that thing's dope." I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Yeah, dude." He's like, "I don't see a lot of." He's like, It's all primer. That shit's dope." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's not primer. It's just gray."
this is your classic example, and you know what? God bless your parents, dude. Like, yeah, they were able to hand you down a car. But this is one of those things that, like, when you're like a teenager, you just get your license, you get your first car, and you never get. Yeah, nowadays, sorry kids, nowadays you guys are spoiled. Sorry, back in our days, I hate to say that because it makes us sound old now. When we got like regular hand-me-downs as far as stuff like that goes, kind of got us into the position to be able to buy bigger and better things ourselves. But we had this station wagon, and it was our lifeboat. Paul had his license. PG had his license. It was our lifeboat. We went everywhere. We took it everywhere, every possible place we can go to. I'm going to even go as far as to say this. We were young teenagers thinking, what would happen if we decided to rob the local warehouse? You remember that?
I was fighting so hard not to tell that story.
I'm talking about not an actual industry building. I'm talking about an actual warehouse.
The warehouse that sold like the music and movies.
Where you buy your music and movies and stuff.
And
something
video
that's not
games
around anymore because you got the luxury of the internet. We had this place, and that was probably, I guess, equivalent to like our church. Like we go there for things that we like to look at. Shit, that's where I got the Return of the Living Dead DVD.
Nice.
Then now I'm thinking of, okay, so same spot, very local place. And we were like, hey, what if we ran in there and just grabbed as much shit as we can and fucking pile into the fucking
station wagon?
So we're plotting this, and we're trying to figure out how long it's going to take us to flee the scene, unnoticed, and get back to safety. And so we're timing it, and this motherfucker's hitting the gas down the street, blows a tire.
I turned the corner I turned the corner too fast, and I blew a tire. And there was no spare in the car. Do you remember what we had to do?
I don't even remember. No, I don't remember the details.
We had to fucking call a tow truck.
That's right.
And I had to get it towed back to the apartments, and my parents were like, "What the fuck?" Because at that point, I didn't know that car was not bestowed upon me yet. I don't even think I had my license at that point. I think I just fucking took it.
Yeah, I think he had his permit. Well, I don't know. It was something along those lines.
Yeah, either way. Yeah, not a good look.
Good.
Anyways, so yeah, fucking great times.
Station wagon hits a tree, flops over.
Hits a tree, flops over. As a result, the boy dies, and the girl becomes blind.
Little JJ, right? The little boy.
JJ, correct. Yeah. And so when they move into the castle, the maid is putting the rooms together. Barbara Crampton's character is like, "Hey, can you set up a third room, because I need a room for my husband." And that's where we learn, like, the marriage is on the rocks. She blames him, rightfully so, for what happened.
Situation for the lady of the house, or the housekeeper, or whatever.
Yeah, especially in a different country where, like, it's not as common, to just like
You're
live
like,
that kind of
you guys
lifestyle.
don't sleep with other people regularly? What the
Yeah,
fuck?
yeah,
You must
yeah.
be from America.
Yeah. So we get the backstory. Dad killed son, blinded daughter.
Oh yeah, he
Uh,
had that. He had that dream, the dream sequence.
yeah, which backfills the story, which was super helpful.
Mhm.
But puts us right on pace. So we understand why Barbara Crampton's character is not okay with Jeffrey Combs' character and why they're sleeping in separate rooms, the whole nine. Um, and then we just kind of get right into it where, you know, they're exploring the house. They're, you know, the daughter's starting to hear the noises. She follows the cat, goes down to the cellar. That's where she's hearing the freak. But I thought it was awesome that the freak is kind of self-aware. Like he was smart enough to understand that he wanted to get out of his bonds, and so he ends up like biting the shit out of his fingers, and then like or his thumb on his left hand, and then breaks his thumb to slide the cuff off to get out of the chains, which like to me it was a cringeworthy moment. Like
Oh, dude.
it was good enough that he was biting the shit out of his thumb, but then when he actually breaks it himself, I was like, oh fuck, I can like feel it just coursing through my body. And then he slides the cuff right off and he gets out.
Dude, the solid gold for the horror aficionado. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, it was good. And
Yeah.
then there's a scene where he's roaming the castle, and he finds a mirror and he sees himself, and he scares himself because of what he sees in the mirror, and he ends up breaking the mirror. And I think that is the correlation to H.P. Lovecraft's The Outsider, because that's kind of the
that's
premise of
exactly
that
when you were
short story.
describing it. Like that's exactly what I was thinking about. Was actually that scene. Oh, just a little off note. I wanted to say this for a gift. I got my girlfriend. It's a collective of all H.P.'s Lovecraft's short stories and sci-fi and stuff. Reanimators in there too.
Nice, very nice. So things are starting to happen within the castle. They call the cops. The cops come over and they're like, there's not enough evidence to like for us to look around. Sorry, I'm gonna make myself another drink.
How dare you?
This
is a children's show.
Yeah, okay. That's why I tell YouTube every time I upload these videos, no, it is not made for children.
You hear that, kids? Don't tell your parents. Don't tell them. Use their credit card. No, I'm kidding.
So yeah, so the freaks kind of roaming the castle, and I thought it was funny that like not funny, but just a good call out that after the freak found himself in the mirror and identified himself, you only see him in wraps. Like he made the conscious effort to hide himself from the people that are in the castle now because he recognized that it's a scary sight.
You remember where he got it?
The bedroom of the daughter, right? He removed the sheets.
Yeah, so the first thing he
creeped
did,
in there
he
like a
unshackled
creeper.
himself after, like you said, the gory scene where he basically took off his thumb to get through the cuffs. He breaks himself out, kicks open the door, ends up wandering into their teen daughter's room. And remember, she's blind, so she doesn't really notice that somebody's there until the heavy breathing. I'm sure the guy, living in a chamber for that long, I'm sure you smell pretty gross and shit. Your body looks very gross as it is. He ripped the sheet off her bed and actually used that to conceal his form.
Which I thought to be, maybe it was just like an afterthought or like a sub thought, or maybe it wasn't even a thought at all. But like the idea that this kid who's grown into an adult, who's only lived in the confines of this castle, who's never interacted with anybody else outside of the castle, understands the idea of beautiful versus ugly. No. But what I'm saying is he recognized that he is, not appealing or ugly
Oh,
or
yeah. Yeah, he's
a
very,
sight for
like
sore
you said,
eyes.
he's very self-aware that he's not normal.
That was interesting to me. Like I picked up on that and I was like, how would he know that? You know?
Well, he took years of whipping to prove that point. I mean, you're telling me the Duchess took time to go down there and it's time for another whipping again. You know,
But if
bring out
there's no
the
mirror down there, like how does he have any self idea of like,
well,
what
I'm
I
sure
look
she's
like to compare
basically
to what
been
the
telling
Duchess
him
looks
all
like?
these years, like, hey, you're a piece of shit, you're gross, you're like fucking, you're a bottom feeder, like fucking
I
you
guess.
deserve torture the rest of your life.
I guess maybe I'm reading into it too much,
No,
but
no, I think this is just my assumption, but yeah, like I mean, if his upbringing was like that, living in a chamber on a regular basis, she's going out there whipping him and shit like that. She's probably telling him shit about how disgraceful he is and what non-human being he is, what a monster he is. So he probably already knows that at that point because he's been put away for that long. You know,
yeah, makes sense.
probably the only other contact he's had with another human being, other than the family that moved in, is the Duchess.
Well,
She was
it's funny.
normal.
It's funny because that scene where he's in the daughter's bedroom and he's removing the sheets. Now that we're talking about it in this way, like I don't think that he was consciously removing the sheets for the purpose of wrapping himself up, but I think what he was trying to do was like get at the daughter, like in a sexual way. And Perla was the one who pointed out, like, oh, he's a pervert too. And I'm like, I don't think that he's a pervert. I think it's more so that it's just like an animal instinct in that, like, this guy's never seen any other human ever before. So all he's used to is like sleeping, eating. And now that there's a female in the house, he's got, male urges. And that's just pure animal instinct. So it's, eat, sleep, reproduce. That's kind of it.
Okay, you know what? You got a very valid point there. I'm gonna say this. I was actually gonna say I do agree with Perla on that. I think he is just a weird pervert, but you bringing that up kind of says a lot about this movie in general. I mean, when you look at the perspective of Jeffrey Combs, his his character personification, same thing, right? Failed marriage. He's gonna go into what's the word I'm looking for? He's gonna go into infidelities and stuff like that. Things to thrive a man's needs and stuff like that. In a weird way, they're not very different.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a
I
really
didn't
good
pick
point.
up on that until you said that.
So just to backfill some of that. So, as he's walking the grounds of the castle, he comes across the wine cellar, which is fucking deep and stocked. I was like, God damn, that's a lot of wine. But he's
You
a
got
recovering
bottles,
alcoholic.
drinks,
Yeah.
fucking just covered in cobwebs. No telling how old that shit is.
And he had mentioned that, it had been at least 9 months since the accident, and he hasn't had a drop to drink since then. So, it's been a minute, and he's trying to, like, make amends with his wife, and who's like, I don't know. I'm not there. I'm not ready. And he even asked her, like, well, why the fuck did you come with me here if you weren't ready to, like, if you're not on the same path as me? Like, he's at the point where he wants to move on and rebuild, and she's just fuck, she's just dwelling on the fact that, like, you fucking murdered my kid and fucking handicapped the other one.
No,
So what does he
feel
do?
for him, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you do, but at the same time, like, if you're that down to commit to something like that and you want to rebuild, I don't know that doing what he did, which was to go to the fucking bar and start drinking. He was drinking double shots of Jack and met a fucking hooker, took her back to the castle, was like pouring wine on her like it was champagne, like he was fucking just won the Super Bowl or whatever, and ends up fucking her in the castle, which is a
We gotta get to that. We have to float into that. Hold on 1 second, just real fast. Well, in this aspect, yes, he was drunk. He was driving. I don't think he was driving erratic. They probably weren't going that deep into the filming of this, but I don't really think what had happened was technically his fault. It looked like they were on a very one lane-esque kind of road. He turned his head not because he was preoccupied with something else, and he wasn't texting on his phone, because back then there wasn't cell phones where you normally text with and stuff like that. But he was looking back to make sure that his son was buckled in, because his son dropped his little video game system.
Dude, was that a Game Gear or was that not a Game Gear?
I don't know. I honestly, if I were to take a crack, I'm gonna say this. I think it was like a Tiger game or something.
Nah, I was like, I think that's a fucking Game Gear.
Do you think these people can afford a fucking Game Gear? Well, then again, the guy owned a castle, so yeah, probably.
Well, he inherited the castle, but you don't know what he did.
Now we're gonna have to do some research on that. When did Game Gear come out? Because that would tell us.
Ah, motherfucker, man.
Yeah, so you just open up a whole new Pandora's box right there.
You know, if Zoom wasn't such a piece of shit and would fucking crap out every time I try to open my browser, I'd look it up right now. But whatever.
So if we were to put it in the modern day, the kid was playing with it, a quote unquote tablet game, right? Drops it. Kid decides to unbuckle his little. See, he was like 4 years old, 5 years old. He was in a fucking not like a toddler seat or whatever. Unbuckles himself, and you know, his good dad, though he was drunk, was trying to make sure he was buckled in, and says, "Hey, get back in your seat." Blah blah blah. It was enough time for him to look the other way. Oncoming truck was coming, and his daughter, who was not blind at the time, had witnessed the truck coming, warned her dad. He tried to maneuver, but unfortunately, you know, things didn't wind up the way they should have. Which, you know, for budget wise, it was an all right crash, but I don't see how the baby went flying out of the car.
Speaking of budget, like, okay, hold on. Just because you brought it up, I don't want to go too far left on a tangent, but remember, they started shooting in June and they had to be done by July 9th because band was like, yeah, get the fuck out of my castle. So a lot of this movie was shot single, like they did one take, maybe two, and that was it. So there's some call outs in that video essay that I had watched by Zane and his YouTube channel, where he calls out the fact that like a lot of these scenes are drawn out simply based on the fact that they didn't really have a lot of time to like go back and reshoot and try to get it right. There are just maybe one or two takes and they're like, okay, that's it. And then moving on. And then when band shows up and is like, hey, you guys got to be out in 24 hours. They're like, fuck, crunch time. And they just ran through a lot of shit. So they ended up, you know, keeping a lot of like these first shot takes. And then on top of that, again, from a budget perspective, a lot of these actors didn't get paid any of the overtime that they were due. And most of the actors were paid half, if not like a third of what what they were told they were going to get paid, simply because of the time crunch to get the movie out. So yeah, sorry, budget was a thing with this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's why we cover it, right? I mean, we love these kind of movies.
Low budget to no budget. Either way, we gotcha.
All right, so my buddy PG here, like he sees the spectrum from both sides. You know, I don't blame Barbara Crampton's character. I just, like I feel like she was a little hard on him. I did feel it in that scene that you're talking about. And then let's go back to that the movie where she was talking about, oh, my husband's gonna have his own separate room. It had this awkward like transition with the maid and stuff like that. Like, okay, it's kind of where we understand where their marriage is at. Totally on the rocks. Rocky as fuck. It's K2, like the fucking Mount Everest and shit. Sorry, whatever.
That's taking it back a little bit, but kind of moving forward as well.
I'm sorry.
The freak's walking around the castle. Sexual urges arise. He's, just kind of moving around willy-nilly. They all know someone's in the house. They call the cops. Cops are like, hey,
the girl screams.
There's not enough evidence for us to search the entire fucking castle. So like, good luck. And then the husband and wife, Barbara Crampton and Jeffrey Combs, get into a fight. And she's like really laying into him, like, it's your fucking fault and blah, blah, blah. And like, I don't want to be with you. And he took that shit hard. So he ends up going over to a bar and he's starting to drink. He's starting to drink again. Right.
Yeah. Reopen the bottle.
Double shots of Jack. And he ends up meeting some girl there who only speaks Italian because they're in Rome and he only speaks English. So there's no
Savannah.
Is that what her name was?
I think so.
Okay.
Am I wrong about that?
I don't know. I was trying to look it up on IMDb, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah, some working girl named Savannah.
And so he takes her back to the castle because the bartender's like, you guys are fucking done. And they end up drinking and he starts to like get down with her, right? Like sexually. And so he's like rips open her blouse and he starts like, kissing on her boobs and everything, and then he actually like goes down on her. But this whole time,
I'm glad you can make this
the freak like is
kindergartner or like fucking describing sex. He sucks on her boob and everything.
I don't know. I don't know why I'm still a little shy about like
no.
calling them tits or whatever.
The guy was all up on her nipples, man. He was sucking those titties. No.
Thank you.
Do you think at this point, here's my question. At this point, did Jeffrey Combs, I'm sorry I say him by his real name, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it's just, when you like movies, most of the time that's what happens. You like characters. We like the people that play them, kind of thing. Do you think he knew that she was a working girl?
No.
I don't think he did.
I don't think any of us knew. Well, I mean, it was, it's
obvious to you and me. Like, she
today,
came out of nowhere wearing like fucking a bra for a fucking top and shit. And,
today we watched that movie and we're like, yeah, that's a hooker. Yeah. But I don't know, maybe in 95 we're like, maybe she's I think
the idea is for a man who's desperate, see some lady come and talk to him and stuff, he just thinks that she's interested.
Well, he was also way fucking wasted when she came up to him at the bar. So he,
I mean, I'm pretty fucked
easy
up
mark
as well, but I'm not, nowhere near where he was at.
Yeah, easy mark. But it was obvious, after he's sucking on her titties and then he goes down on her and then he bangs her for like 4 seconds. I was like, damn, dude. Really?
With his pants on.
That is true. Yes. No Jeffrey Combs, but sorry, ladies. But the freak is watching this whole thing go down. And so again, he's got those urges that are coming up because he saw the daughter and he's seeing all this go down. He's like, okay, that's how that works. I get it. You give them this bottle, alcohol, wine, and then you can like do whatever you want to these people, the women. So the hooker, when everything is said and done, she's like, yeah, fucking pay me. And he's like, what? And she's like, yeah, pay me.
Yeah, in Italian,
like, okay.
He's like, hey,
it doesn't matter what language it is. I think this is
tell him that it was too much money.
this is the universal sign for fuck you, pay me. And he was like, okay, here's money. I didn't think that he gave her too much money.
Grabs the wad and just throws it in her hand.
I didn't think that he gave her too much money. She was even trying to be
an honest hooker and say, hey, this is too much. This is too much.
Honest hooker. I like that. That's funny. Oxymoron. I
guess if you go to Europe, there's honest hookers. Go to Europe, guys.
It's funny because the way I took it was there wasn't enough money. But either way, you say too much, I say not enough. Somewhere in the middle lies the truth.
The guy owns a castle. He's probably loaded now. Well, I mean,
but dude, he inherited the castle. He didn't fucking buy it. Like it's not, you know what I mean?
He's sitting there throwing away money. He
wasn't like balling out.
He's just fucking making it rain and shit. Bartender, hey. Fucking, I'll give a shit if that bottle's empty. Give me more.
Yeah, that part. Yeah, that part does make sense.
I don't know. It's just like little things like that. I kind of
so immediately he has that, like, after, you know, he has that guilt of like, fuck, I just cheated on my wife with a hooker and I want this to go away. So he's like, get the fuck out. So she leaves. And
from what I understand, this isn't the first time he's cheated on her, by the way. I'm sorry, I just want to throw that in.
Oh, I didn't pick that up. Well, how'd you pick that up?
There was a little tidbit when they were talking about like him having his own room and shit. I forgot what it was.
Oh no, I took it as the reason she wanted him to have his own room is because they were still not on good terms because of everything that happened with the accident.
Well, she said something about forgiving, so maybe that was it, you know.
Anyway. Yeah, I think that was more on the accident.
Yeah.
Anyways, he bails. The hooker goes a different way. The freak finds her, captures her, takes her back to his dungeon, tries to feed her wine, and he ends up like doing the same shit that Jeffrey Combs had done to her. He starts, you know, sucking on her titties, but like he doesn't suck on them. He actually bites her areola off. Like it was fucking rough to watch, where like he was just like, just getting in there. And then he actually starts going down on her too, which then later, you know, in a scene where you just see she's just like bitten all over the place and bloody, and it's like he just took it to a whole different level. But yeah, you know, understandably, because like he doesn't know what he's doing.
I mean, talk about what is it? Munching carpets and shit. That guy he went full vacuum.
You know what's funny is we were watching the movie, and I couldn't help but think to myself, like, Matt's gonna have a few comments about going down on her, and you know,
that when it comes to sexual violence, I'm always gonna have a comment, because Jesus Christ, you're going out, you're doing like you're getting down to some like nitty gritty shit and shit. My ears are wide fucking open. Oh,
I gotcha. So that's kind of his first victim in the castle.
Don't forget that the policeman. The cop. There was a policeman that
baby daddy
confronted Jeffrey Combs in the bar. Yeah. Pretty much, you know, was warning him, like, hey, you know, like, probably not a good idea, but we'll take this away. But you know,
well, we find out later that because he's the baby daddy, right? Well, so the hooker has a kid.
I was gonna actually segue into it, but
all right. I'll leave it to you.
Since we already gone there. Yeah, he was the officer in charge of when they were asking him to look around the house. He didn't want to look around. It's the same officer. And he comes looking around after Savannah disappears or whatever.
I don't know.
Come home, she hasn't reported in. She's got a kid, and now they're looking for her. And Jeffrey Combs was the last man to see her before she disappeared. So
yeah, the maid of the castle ends up finding Savannah, but too late. Alive. Yeah, she was still alive. I wasn't sure if she was dead or not.
That was actually I wanted to bring that up when you brought it up there, when you had mentioned it. Like, I almost forgot whether she was alive or dead at that moment. Like, that was actually kind of a freaky scene, right? I mean, it was the housemaid that heard the woman screaming, and she goes down to check it out. It happens to be down in those chambers that the Castle Freak came from. And she had seen this bloodied and battered woman. Oh, after they found her purse too, right? Her purse was still out.
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
So the cops had a handle on that, or the lawyer had mentioned it, or something like that when he was talking to Jeffrey Combs. You know, about, was he the lawyer or just the guy that was getting them the house?
I don't know what the fuck he was. He
It's
was
like
helping them
both,
move in,
right? He
but
was
then
like their legal whatever.
but then he was like, hey, you know, you got this hooker trouble, so like I can help you out with that too, but like you gotta pay me more money. And I was like, what is this fool's role? Like, just jack of all trades? Like, yeah, I can help you sell your house and help you get over this hooker trouble.
Maybe that's how it works in these little Italian cities and shit.
Maybe.
More than one occupation. I'm the mayor and the dentist at the same time. Yeah. They found her bag or whatever. Or I'm sorry. So the housemaid finds the girl, and just the aspect that when she comes up to the girl and then she rubs on her or something, and you know the girl actually comes to. We thought she was dead. This is what we were just talking about. Like, we both thought she was just dead, and seeing her move all of a sudden, you're like, oh fuck, she's still alive.
I thought it was one of those things where like the actor just didn't know to like hold her breath, and so she was just breathing, you know. But then there's a scene, then the scene right after that is like her moving and like being reactive to shit. I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
Now you know it was quite the opposite. Director was like, make it look like you're still breathing.
Yeah.
We're going to really mind fuck these people.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
But yeah, so the hooker's being literally eaten. The maid who finds her ends up dying as well. Jeffrey Combs ends up getting arrested. I don't know. I think he beat her over the head or something like that.
The Castle Freak killed her.
Yeah. Combs' character ends up getting arrested because the main cop in charge is also the baby daddy of the hooker. And
oh yes.
Yeah.
Brought up by the legal attendant guy. Or
yeah. And he's swearing up and down he didn't do anything, and they don't believe him. They go back to the castle, they find the bodies, and they're like, we fucking got you. And they end up taking him back to the precinct, and he ends up escaping. How did he end up getting out of there? I don't remember.
The officer who, like you said, was the baby daddy.
Oh, that's right. He got offended because Combs was like, I didn't kill her, I just fucked her. And the dude got all pissed and he hit him with the fucking baton right in the face
with it. Yeah. Knocked him out real quick.
Typical
cops. They pull out the officer to calm him down. And in that time, Jeffrey Combs was able to get up, grab the baton, and escape out of a window that for some reason you just have leave a note. It's two reasons why this window shouldn't have been open. For one, you're in a holding area, you know, like obviously you don't want criminals just schmooze on out of there like you know, like, oh, wide open door policy, cool. But two, it's a thunderstorm outside. Why the fuck are your windows open? Is this like a tropical Florida? Fuck it. I don't know. Maybe they have tropical Florida weather in Italy, but it seems like a little extra, but doesn't matter. I was actually thinking about that window too. It's like, that's a very easy setup, a very easy way to let him go.
Yeah, I got you.
And very smart on his part, because you have to deal with reception and all that shit when you're on your way out.
So he gets out and he's running back towards the house, which is good because at this point, the wife and the daughter are still in the house, but the freak is like on the loose. He's already grabbed the daughter. He took her back to the dungeon. He's trying to like, do his thing with her, and Barbara Crampton ends up coming down to rescue her and tries to offer herself up to the freak. And he's like, all right, yeah, I'm down with that. And as soon as he like comes over to her, she has a knife behind her back. She pulls that shit out and fucking sticks that fool. And he goes down. She grabs his daughter. They bone out. They actually end up on the roof of, or what do you call the top of a castle? Not a roof, right?
The roof is on fire. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know.
Fuck you.
Roof. I don't think there's an actual name for the roof of the castle.
Oh, I'm 100% sure there's a name for that shit. I just don't know what it is.
Okay. I
but
honestly do know.
they end up there, and they're trying to fight off the freak. And out of nowhere, Jeffrey Combs shows up, and he's able to fucking wrestle with the freak, and he ends up like grabbing the chain for the freak, because again, the freak doesn't have both shackles off. He just broke one of his thumbs and took that one off, and that was like good enough for him to like start moving around. So he still's got the shackle on him. Yeah, he still's got the shackle on him. So Combs' character grabs the shackle and then jumps off the top of the castle with the freak. They both hit the ground. It's insinuated, and I use that word deliberately, it's insinuated that the freak dies, but Combs's character is still kind of alive for a second. So you do this whole time lapse cut scene where like it goes from the girls looking up from above the castle down to the floor, where you see both of them on the floor, to instantly the girls are downstairs, down at the bottom of the castle, and they're attending to Combs, kind of like in Jurassic Park, where like the Jeep started off at the top and then it's at the bottom, and they're looking at the Jeep from the top, and then like the very next scene is like they're at the bottom. But Combs is alive long enough to be like, I love you, and Barbara Crampton is like, I love you, and so they end up making up on his deathbed. And then the very next scene is them putting Combs his what do you call it, the box that you put them in?
Coffin.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Too many of these.
I've had too many too.
They're putting his coffin in the They're putting his coffin in the back of the hearse, but there's never any call out to like what happened to the freak as far as like the body goes or anything. So I used that word a little while ago, allegedly, because one of the notes that I had was Stuart Gordon, in an interview with Fangoria, had alluded to the idea that he wanted to develop Giorgio, the freak, that character a little bit more, and develop some additional movies related to him, in the sense that like he wanted to draw out the character like a Freddy or a Jason. That's kind of paraphrasing the interview from Gordon with Fangoria. Was like
a franchise.
Yeah, which like, I mean, again, so if you watch the original movie, and I say that deliberately because there is a remake, a 2020 version of the movie. If you watch the original, he is presumed to be dead because he's not moving when they hit the floor, after Combs had dragged him down to over the side of the castle. But we didn't see what happened with the body. We didn't see what happened after the fact. We just saw that it looked like he was dead, and that was it. So I think some of the notes that I read, the remake is supposed to like kind of introduce the idea or the concept of like a recurring character of the antagonist and create like a series like Freddy or Jason, but I haven't seen the remake, so I have no idea how it goes. All right, dude. That's it.
That's it.
Castle Freak, man.
Thank you guys for engaging in this new episode. We got one more for you in this little arc. Hope you guys tune in. It's gonna be awesome. Mind blown. I'm still blown from this movie. It's such a good movie.
Also worth noting as well, like we've stepped up our game a little bit, so you can reach out to us, mutantcityhorror@gmail.com, Instagram at Mutant City Horror. We're doing Monster Palooza, right? So kind of what we did with
we have plans to be there at Monster Palooza.
We'll be at Monster Palooza in June.
Don't rush it because I haven't bought my 3-day tickets yet. So,
we'll be at Monster Palooza
at least.
At least on Saturday for that day. Because if you're going all 3 days, I think I'm just going Saturday.
We might have an upcoming thing we don't know about yet.
Live broadcasts from the thing in Guasi come July.
Yes, so, there's a local spot that my girlfriend likes to vend at. I've done a couple of her vendings there. A beautiful place. It's very historic. It's actually part of the Historic Society. They keep it pretty much kept up for the time. So it's a little piece of history, but they have these fun activities. For us that love horror films, you would definitely love it there. There's going to be vendors of every kind when it comes down to, whether it's clothing, whether it's, just little trinkets you like to buy around the house, to candles, scented candles, to makeup. They got it all. It's all over the place. It's all horror related. There's going to be a bar that's horror related there. And PG and I have just been invited to go there and do a live podcast. And so hopefully we can get that on the ground. We'll keep you updated. And we'd love to see you guys in person and meet new people and have just a really fucking kick-ass time. I hope we can all do that.
Check the Instagram at Mutant City Horror. Get all the updates.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
And once again, good drinking with you guys. Have fun.
Salute.
Thank you guys. And thank you, Paul.